Welcome everybody to Drunken Fumble 2016 Week 4 Commissioner's Address. Lots of good football this weekend. The bye week started. Officially there was 2 teams out. I think there's 4 more this week. It's going to be interesting getting into what people are doing with injuries and with bye weeks. There's lots of trades going on, which I like to see. Bold predictions. Number 1, Jags offense clicks against Indy. 3 players with receiving touchdowns. I am going to say they clicked, and I'm going to give myself that one. He did have 2 receivers with touchdowns. Blake Bortles did, and then he rushed one himself. So I'm going to say that he gave himself that one. Number 2, Buffalo upsets New England. That was a huge upset. Buffalo's been playing really well. They started off kind of shitty, but in the last 2 weeks they've beat Arizona and New England. And New England obviously drops that undefeated tag there. So that was a good game by Buffalo. Third prediction, Chicago will lose by 21 points or more to Detroit. I don't know what happened there. Detroit fell apart. Stafford did not look good. Chicago actually won that one, 17-14. Chicago looked half decent. I don't know if they would have contended against a good team, especially a good defensive team, but Detroit didn't do enough to win there. Bonus prediction, rolling with the Vikes. Vikes will not allow a rushing touchdown and will win by 14 versus the Giants. I don't even know if the touchdown that the Giants got was rushing. I don't really care. I'm giving myself that one because they did win by 14 against the Giants. That was a good game. Vikes are rolling. And Rob's bold prediction, Rams over Cardinals. That happened as well. So the Cardinals are 1-3. And in their same division, the Carolina Panthers are 1-3. So I don't think anybody would have saw that coming. Both of those teams were certainly playoff favorites, if not favorites to make it to the Super Bowl. So that's your bold predictions for this week. Let's get into the matchups. Number 1, healthy to questionable versus 4th and Lynch's. This was a heartbreaker. Healthy to questionable dropping the game by 0.6 points. McKinnon did quite a bit, but not enough for me to win, or I needed John Brown to get an extra point. I was so close to evening up my record to 2-2, and I fell to 1-3, improving 4th and Lynch's to 3-1. No real big performances here, to be honest with you. Denver kind of kept me in it. We both had the opportunity to win this game, and neither of us really did it. It just came down to the wire. Nobody really stepped up and kind of took the game here. So, well played, 4th and Lynch's. That's a good win. That improves your record, obviously, to 3-1. Next matchup, Bassett's Brawlers versus Atlanta Falcons. This was the blowout of the week, even if I would have put a tight end in for Spencer. I didn't start Jamal Charles. I just read that you shouldn't, and that was good because he got 0.7 points. For those of you who don't know, Bassett is gone hunting in Chetwynd this week and next week, so he can't set his own team. So he asked me to do it, and I did miss the tight end there. That was the early game in the morning, the London game, and I forgot it was happening, and they called him, Julius Thomas, out right before the game actually started there, and I wasn't up at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So sorry about that, Spence, but either way, you still would have been the blowout of the week, even with the 15 points, I think. 16 points by Henry from San Diego. Atlanta Falcons was just unstoppable. Matt Ryan, 500 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Just good performances all around. Macklin had a decent day. Will Fuller, 27 points. He's been unreal this year. Marvin Jones was good in the loss against Chicago. Zeke and Bell. He didn't even have a touchdown, and he had 22.8 points. He is so good. I think he had 18 rushes for 144 yards, so he had like a 7-yard average per touch to go along with 5 catches for 34 yards. He's so good. He's so good. And Jordan Reed finally developed himself as the number 1 tight end in Washington. They're running all those 3 tight end sets and 2 tight end sets. He did get 9 catches for 2 touchdowns and 73 yards. Joe Flacco had a good day in their first loss to Oakland. So Joe Flacco's Ravens drops to 3-1, and they also lose that undefeated tag. Good matchup there for Atlanta Falcons. Just on fire. Matt Ryan, the highest earning fantasy player to date, and I don't think it's even close. I think Breeze is the next behind him, and he's, I want to say, 25 or 30 points behind. After 4 weeks, that's fairly significant. Next matchup, Luck Gurley versus Browns Dragons. Julio Jones. Next matchup, Demarius Stormborn versus Underminers. This one was a lower scoring matchup, but was fairly close, 122 to 109. Underminers improving to 3-1, and Demarius Stormborn settling for 2-2 record. The quarterbacks were not good in this matchup. Matt Stafford and Eli Manning combined for about 19 points. The other quarterbacks that almost doubled Stafford and Manning were Brian Hoyer and Kirk Cousins. They had 18 and 19 points respectively. Washington defense was good against Cleveland, despite Cleveland actually putting some decent numbers on the board. LaShawn McCoy was steady, 70 rush yards and a catching touchdown to go with 6 catches for 22.8 points. So good performance there for Leck. And he's a big Buffalo fan, so he's happy. He did have Steve Smith Sr. on the bench, who blew up this week for 8 catches for 111 and a touchdown for 25 points. But it didn't matter. He did come away with the win. He does have Brandon Cooks that he started, and he has been fairly quiet since week 1. So it'll be interesting to see what he does here going forward. Next matchup, Cincinnati Carnage against the Waiver Wire. This was a higher scoring matchup, but Cincinnati Carnage winning by about 20, 174 to 154. Waiver Wire just not having any luck. Cam Newton, 15 points, left the game with a concussion. And that's going to be shitty for Nick, who's had to make some moves already. And now Cam Newton might miss time. That was a hard hit. If you didn't see the hit he took, he tried to run the ball in, and he thought he was going to get in because he's like 6 and 260, 270, and he got laid out. And he didn't go down, but he got hit hard. AJ Green in the win, 173 yards, 10 catches, and a touchdown. He's been so good for Cincinnati. He's been unreal. And with Eifert still out, he's still getting all the targets. So, I mean, he had 10 catches. Brandon Marshall had a bit of a bounce-back day, 18.9 points. Of course, they still lost to Seattle, the Jets did. So the Jets have been struggling. Fitzpatrick has had 9 picks in 2 weeks. Of course, he had half the picks this week. He did last, but he still had 3. So who else we got going on here? Mark Ingram. You know, he would have had a much, much bigger day for Nick if Kuhn didn't come in and steal 2 touchdowns. Those were Ingram's touchdowns that he could have gotten just as easily, but they put Kuhn in because he's more of a short yardage back. He's a bigger back. So just not a whole lot of luck there for Waiver Wire. Of course, he had Derek Carr on his bench with almost 24 points, who outscored both of his quarterbacks, but wouldn't have made a difference in this matchup. Killjoys versus Vallette's Vengeance. I don't know what you're doing, Jesse, but it ain't working. Killjoys winning 142 to 70. 7-0. Let's go see some of the points here for Vallette's Vengeance. Carson Palmer, 12. DeAndre Hopkins, Golden Tate, Julian Edelman combining for about 7. Devontae Freeman with the lone double-digit performer on his team other than his quarterback there with 14 points. Trevor Siemian with 6 points. He left with an injury, so that sucks there. 70 points. Killjoys, not a lot crazy going on. John Brown had a big day, 24 points. Greg Olsen had a consistent day. But he didn't need to do a whole bunch to beat Vallette's Vengeance. He could have started probably his 4 best players and still would have won. So, Jesse, you got to do something there. I know it's tough. Golden Tate and Edelman. Edelman should start performing now that Brady's back. Golden Tate, I don't know what to tell you. I took him in the 4th round in my other PPR league, and I'm tempted to drop him. He's been garbage. Hopkins should turn it around, but Will Fuller keeps getting all the targets there, so who knows. I'm going to go back and touch on Luck Gurley versus Browns Dragons. All I said earlier was Julio Jones. I don't think I needed to say much more. Big Ben had a big day, 33.9 points. He had 5 touchdowns. Julio Jones, 12 catches for 300 big ones and a touchdown. He was so good. He got open at will. The Carolina defense, their secondary is terrible. They've been giving up tons and tons of room, and Julio was open all day. He's so fast. So fast. I don't even want to elaborate on the rest, but LA, he did start his Rams against Arizona. That was a bold play. He did get 24 points out of them. That was a good day. His Rams are rolling. So let's jump right into Superman of the Week. I know you can't ever sit him, but you just can't pick anybody else for the Superman of the Week. Julio Jones. Like I said, 300 yards. He's the 7th player, I think, in NFL history to have 300 yards, and the 5th in the Super Bowl era to have 300. That's his best day by about 40 yards, I believe. I think 263 was his last best day. But Matt Ryan and him were so good, and Matt Ryan is on a roll. Atlanta's on a roll. Let's see if they can keep it going.
He's such a bitch.
There was a couple of people that it could have been. It could have been me for not waking up early for Bassett's Brawlers, but it didn't make a difference, so I don't feel too bad about that one. It's got to go to Villette's Vengeance. That sucks, man. I feel for you, but 70 points. You were projected for 132, and your whole team shit the bed. Devontae Freeman did get more points than he was supposed to by about 2. Asiata got more by about 1/3 of a point. It's actually kind of funny to look at. Like DeAndre Hopkins, 1 catch for 4 yards. Golden Tate, a 2-point conversion with 1 catch for 1 yard. How? What? Like he had 1 catch for a 2-point conversion. That was the only time he touched the ball. And Edelman had 16 yards on 1 catch, and he had a rush yard. That's tough. I don't know what you can do with that one. I'll finish up with the standings, but first I want to talk about the stimulus package. We're looking at trades here. Atlanta Falcons has made 1 trade acquiring 1 player. Fourth and Lynch's 1 trade for 1 player. Cincinnati Carnage 1 trade for 1 player. Same with Demarius Stormborn. The waiver wire has done 2 trades for 3 players. Healthy to questionable, I've done 2 trades acquiring 5 players. Of course, you only get 10 bonus points on 1 player, so keep that in mind. Luck Your Girlie's done 1 trade for 2 players. Killjoy's 1 trade for 3 players. So people who haven't traded yet, Underminers, Brown Dragons, Bassett's Brawlers, and Villette's Vengeance. So you 4 better get on it. I'm going to text all of you to make sure you get on that. If Bassett's Brawlers doesn't make a trade, I will make one for him. It won't be a very big trade, but hopefully we can get a 5th wide receiver or something that he can kind of throw in and get the 10 bonus points. I'll take a look at his team, but I think it's still going to benefit him to do it that way. But Underminers, Brown Dragons, and Villette's Vengeance, you got to make a trade before this week so that you can start that player. Remember, it takes 2 days for trades to go through, so you're going to want to do that today or tomorrow, and make sure that player doesn't play on Thursday because you're probably not going to get it in on time. Wrapping up here with the standings. Number 1, Atlanta Falcons, running with Matt Ryan, 3-1. He has 649 points for. Yeah, he is rolling. Underminers, number 2 at 3-1. Number 3 is Fourth and Lynch's at 3-1. Number 4 is Killjoy's, wrapping up the 3-1s. The 2 and 2s in order: Brown Dragons at number 5, Luck Your Girlie at number 6, Bassett's Brawlers at number 7, Cincinnati Carnage and Demarius Stormborn wrapping up 8-9. Healthy to questionable, the first 1 and 3 at number 10, Villette's Vengeance at number 11. And the waiver wire wraps up number 12 as the lone 0-4. He actually has the second most points. I just want to point that out. Atlanta Falcons has 650 points roughly. Waiver wire has 625 roughly. The next closest is 616 at Browns Dragons. So waiver wire is the second best player year to date, but he's 0-4. That sucks, man. That's terrible. He has almost 200 more points than Vallette's Vengeance, who is one spot better than him. Oh man, that sucks. But with your points you're putting up, you could still make the playoffs. You're gonna have to win like 6 in a row here. Start rolling. So that is the week 4. Get those trades in: Underminers, Brown Dragons, Bassett's Brawlers, and Vallette's Vengeance. Again, you only get the bonus points on one player, but you have to start that player for week 5. If any of those players are playing each other and you decided that you don't want to do the trade, well, then I guess it doesn't really hurt anybody. I guess I can see that here really quick. Brown Dragons and Vallette's Vengeance. So if you guys don't want to make a trade, you guys play each other. It won't actually affect either of you. Underminers and Bassett's Brawlers do need to make a trade. I can probably make that happen. I'll give Lack a text here and go from there. Anyway, that is your week 4 Commissioner's Address. All hail the Commish.